We're coming to the end of the Easter season and Pentecost is only a few weeks away. However, in this week's readings, we're transported back to the night of the Last Supper. Once again, we find ourselves in the upper room where Jesus has gathered his most intimate disciples, the 12. He knows that this is the last time they will be gathered together like this until they all reunite in eternity. Jesus chooses his words very carefully. Everyone on their deathbed has their final words, their legacy, and this is Jesus's. He explains how much he's loved us and that he desires that we remain in his love, that we remain his friends, so that we can experience the indescribable joy that flows from true love. And then he lays down his new commandment, the summary of everything he has said and done in his life. Love one another as I have loved you. During his ministry, Jesus summarized the 10 Commandments in 2, love of God and love of neighbour. Now, however, at the climax of his earthly mission, he sums it all up in 1, love one another as I have loved you. In effect, this is our Christian battle plan. At the Last Supper, Jesus was on the verge of his final battle against evil and the forces of darkness. And after him, his church, founded on the faith and witness of those 12 disciples gathered with him, will take the same battle to the ends of the earth, to every corner of human history and culture. The plan is so simple and straightforward, summed up in this single, final, definitive command: love one another as I have loved you. We're Christ's soldiers, and this is our mission. If Christ's battle plan is for us to love others, to give of ourselves for the benefit of others, just like he did for us, then we need to ask ourselves a question. What is the very best thing I can do for my neighbour? Now, there are many good things we can do. Give food and clothing to the homeless, educate the ignorant, comfort the sick and the dying. They're what we traditionally call the works of mercy, simple, concrete ways of serving our neighbours. Those are all good things and often very necessary, but are they the very best things we can do for our neighbour? You see, the very best thing we can do for someone is to bring them into friendship with Jesus Christ. And that's what we see happening in today's first reading. Peter brings the good news of Jesus and the grace of the sacraments to the home of Cornelius, a high-ranking officer in the Roman army. The remarkable thing about this encounter is that Cornelius was not Jewish, but a pagan. Up to this point, he'd worshipped the Roman gods and knew nothing of God's promise of salvation through his son, Jesus. When they hear the good news, the entire household is filled with amazement, with joy and new life. And this is what friendship with Jesus brings into people's hearts: meaning, purpose, hope, and knowledge of the truth. As necessary as food and clothing are for the body, friendship with Jesus brings us what our hearts and our souls need for eternity. Those of us who already know Jesus, who have already received his Holy Spirit, we can give those same gifts to the people around us. It's a perfect tactic for carrying out the Christian battle plan, sharing with others the treasure we've all received. The idea of true love is not waffle and nonsense. It's not pie in the sky. It's completely practical. The commandment to love gives us the chance to see our relationships from God's perspective, which is important because we tend to look at our relationships in terms of what we can get out of them. This person is funny, for example, and makes me laugh. This person annoys me. This person is always asking me for favours. But when we understand the path to true wisdom and lasting joy is Christ-like love, self-forgetful, self-giving love, well, these considerations begin to take a back seat. When we're being self-centred, we tend to be passive and reactive. But when we're Christ-centred, we tend to be proactive. We see relationships in terms of what we can give to them, not what we can get out of them. And that's much more dynamic and energizing. Imagine if you started every week by making a list of all the things you wanted to do for people. It would change the whole tone of our week. We'd be lighting lights instead of dodging shadows. So how about this for your battle plan this week? Think of one small thing you can do for your husband or wife or partner to ease their burdens. Think of one small thing you can do to make your boss's or your co-worker's job just a little bit easier. And think of a friend or relative who's suffering, and think of one small thing you can do to help support them. It really is that simple, because this is what self-giving looks like in real life. It's within our reach if we're willing to step out of our comfort zones. Jesus did it for us on the wood of the cross. Today, this week, let's promise to do it for him on the pavement of our daily lives.